Well, it looks like the legislature's Joint Committee on Finance will blow past the deadline to get the state budget signed.
Over the weekend, lawmakers failed to get their long list of agenda items after pushing back their meeting meant to start Friday morning multiple times. Joining us now to talk about where negotiations stand and when we can expect a budget, political analyst Brandon Scholes. Brandon, so can you just kind of make sense of this? What happened this weekend?
If you could take the make sense out of it part, yes, I could tell you what happened. So like you said, Joint Finance was supposed to meet last Friday, and that was going to be a big day because they hadn't met for a while. They had a lot of work to do. It was going to be expected to be a long day. But Republicans and Democrats were meeting. In fact, Assembly Republicans and Senate Republicans were meeting with Senate Democrats, trying to figure out a way to find compromises on a lot of issues, and I think that also reflects the talks that they had with the governor. So they're going to go in at 10, and then at 11, and then at 12, and then at 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and then they were going to have a press conference at 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9:15, and finally just said, no press conference, we're going in at 10. So after 12 hours of negotiations and trying to find a way to agree to things, they came back in at 10 o'clock. They worked for about 2.5, almost 3 hours. And they did address a number of things that were on the agenda last Friday, but they didn't address everything. So there's a long list. They probably got half of it done. And of the half they got done, like the Department of Natural Resources and some other things, there might have been 8 things on that agency agenda, but they did 2. So of all those things they did last week, at the end of the session, the committee hearing last week, the co-chair, Mark Bourne, said, okay, so all the things, the agencies that we did with today, those are closed, meaning we're not going to do anything else with them. So those items on DNR and others, done. And for the rest that they didn't get to, that's what's coming up tomorrow.
So where do things stand right now?
So right now they have a lot of work to do with the Department of Transportation, Department of Health, Children and Families. They have a number of agencies doing. Remember, we're talking about $99 billion worth of stuff. So tomorrow is probably half that, at least. The expectation is that tomorrow they'll meet and they will work through all of the remaining items. And if you notice, we've been seeing a lot of, the Democrats will come up with a motion and it'll lose 4-12. Republicans will come up with their motion and it'll win 12-4 or 16-0. The point is that they have sat down, they've worked out agreements on some things. And Republicans who have the majority will tell the Democrats, talk about your motion, talk about why, and then we'll vote, move on. But at the end of the day tomorrow, the expectation is Joint Finance will finish the budget, they'll vote on it, and then they will send it off to the legislature. And we have a sense that that's happening because the Assembly is planning for what's called an extraordinary session on Wednesday. Now, we had thought that there was going to be time needed to rewrite this budget and do all sorts of things. So I don't know how I don't know how the Fiscal Bureau is going to come up with this magic. But, they're working 24 hours a day. They're trying to get this thing done. And as you mentioned, the deadline was today. It's not a big deal here in Wisconsin because if you don't pass it, we just go on the cost to continue. So whatever is there, they'll continue to go. Government's not going to shut down.
A little bit of a two-parter here. So long list of things to get to. You talked about the meeting that they have coming up. Do you think they'll be able to get through all the items? And if they can't, what happens to the things that they weren't able to get to?
To answer your question, they will get through what they want to get through. And if there's things that they don't get through, it's because they didn't want to.
Gotcha.
So if for some reason it all fell apart and they had to come back on Wednesday or stay 12 hours or whatever it takes to get done, they will get it done because the Assembly wants to meet on Wednesday. We think the Senate wants to meet on Thursday. It goes to the governor for signature. So it's likely gets wrapped up the week after the 4th, but the big stuff, the bulk, the get it done stuff likely comes this week.
So overall, what's your take on it? I mean, they're starting and stopping it, but they're talking. So that's positive, right?
That in divided government, when both parties control something, the governor controls the governor's office, the Republicans have the legislature, the fact that they are talking, that they are negotiating is a good sign because Republicans have the votes to pass whatever budget they want. They've got the majority, at least on the committee and in the 2 houses. And if they can get the Senate and Assembly to agree, they could just do it real quick. But I think it's positive that they've met with the governor many times. They met with their counterparts on the Democrat Party side. They didn't come to agreements. We see a lot of these votes that the Democrats put up that they don't win because they don't have the majority and Republicans get it. But there's been more time, I think, in this budget talking and trying to find some compromise negotiations. And one of the sides may say, well, we didn't get anything. But I think they spent more time talking in this budget than what we've usually seen. And the other thing that is about this budget, we don't see a lot of debate in the committee. So when a motion comes up, here's my motion, Mr. Chairman, you know, and anybody talks, the one side who wants to pass it talks. The other side, Republicans, when the Democrats have it, they don't care to debate. So they're kind of pushing this stuff through. Here's yours, here's ours. There will be debate, obviously, on the floor of the Assembly and the Senate. That's where most of it will come from. But I think now it's a function of just putting through these budgets, the ones that they can and want to, and the other ones that they don't push through, to your question, Jalen, is they already have a budget. It's this year's budget. And so if it's not addressed in the new budget, the program goes on unless it's been canceled. So if it hasn't been canceled, the program will go on. They will continue to spend at a budget level that they've had in the previous year. So there's no $21 billion that the governor wanted to have in addition to what's there, but you know, it's probably going to come out to be a $99 billion budget or somewhere around there, and hopefully it'll be done next week.
Well, the good thing for us is we're getting to see a lot of you. So don't go far, Brandon.
Some might argue that.
Appreciate your help. Thanks so much.
You bet.
Good to see you.